was fortunate and unfortunate. I developed a cancer. I don't know if you've heard about that, but I had two cancers, and I just went into remission on my last one 2 days ago. So you get a chance to see life come full circle, but it's good to have experience the camaraderie and the teamwork that was provided by the people that are there, and it's become a part of your life.
American woman, listen what I say.
Kenny, the Washington Commanders reveal their new name this week. What do you think about Commanders as the brand new name for one of your teams?
It's still a little bit shocking to me, and I think it's a great name, but it'll be a long time before people can not identify with the original Redskins. And I know I'm not supposed to use that name, but from all the press that I've read, it will take an adjustment. I think the Commanders will be great. I think in a couple of years, you'll develop your fan base for that name, and it'll get back to normal.
I got to tell you the truth. I just got used to calling the franchise the Washington Football Team, and now I have to get used to trying to call them something else.
Well, I tell you what, I'm happy that I'm not you on the radio all the time. So because it's so easy to go back to what you know.
Yes, for sure. This is a franchise with a really proud tradition. I know the last few years, it's been a little tougher in trying to build under Ron Rivera. But when you played for Washington and going back for years, this is one of the franchises that I always associate with being tough and with being established and having a proud fan base.
Well, yeah, I played for George Allen, and George Allen believed in veteran players. And so when he traded for people, and he traded for most of his players, they'd come in and they became a part of each other. And each other took on the Washington area, and they became a part of Washington, D.C., a part of Northern Virginia, and stuff like that. And it was a special time with a special breed, with a lot of guys that could really play football. So they were known for their savvy. He had Sonny Jurgensen and Theismann and Kilmer in that group. He had Charlie Taylor, Larry Brown. And I know the game has to move, and it has moved, but that was just a time and place that was very special.
We're spending a few minutes with Hall of Fame safety Kenny Houston, who is joining us from the Houston area, actually, and he spent the early part of his career there and finished up with Washington. It's After Hours with Amy Lawrence here on CBS Sports Radio. Football was your life going back into the 60s, and you finished your career in 1980. How did those years playing football in college and in the NFL shape you as a person? Because you kind of grew up playing football.
Yeah, and that's true. And the scary part about it is once you leave the game, you don't know who you are. You're no longer, you are a part in history of that particular team, but you lose so much identity, and the guys that you grew up with, they've grown into their world. So you're just kind of like a man without a city for a while, and you always gravitate back to your roots. And so it was interesting when I got back, the guys that I grew up in high school with, they'd gone in their careers and their other jobs. And by you being absent, I was like absent 14 years, 5, we're picking 19, including college. And you have to start a new life. You have to start another life. And that's why you see those guys, they're so happy to see each other once they get back in the company of former players. It does take its toll. You can't play that long without injuries, and I was fortunate and unfortunate. I developed a cancer. I don't know if you've heard about that, but I had two cancers, and I just went into remission on my last one 2 days ago. And so you get a chance to see life come full circle, but it's good to have experience the camaraderie and the teamwork that was provided by the people that are there. And it's become a part of your life.
Ken, thank you for sharing that with us. I'm so glad to hear for you and your family that your cancer is now in remission. That's wonderful.
Oh yeah, it's the best thing. I've got to say this. things happen because of God's will, and I'm very aware of that now. I know that He is coming to my life. He was already in my life, but just for me to be in remission, because it's just when you look at the seriousness of cancer, and no two cancers are the same, no two individuals are the same, and I needed grace, and my grace came through God, so I appreciate that.
How long had you been going through treatment, sir?
Well, I was in the hospital 3.5 months.
Wow.
And I was being dismissed from the hospital. When they were checking me out, they found a knot in my arm and they found one in my leg. And they said, we need to check this. And it was lymphoma. So I'm right back in the hospital doing CAR T treatment. So for a long time, I didn't know it was just give or take. And I actually had some experiences in that hospital. It was MD Anderson. And I will never have anywhere else. And I understand the realness of the disease, and I understand the realness of God's work because I just felt He was there with me, and I saw Him.
And I can imagine then that Ron Rivera, as the head coach of Washington, going through his cancer treatments while he's coaching a team, really spoke to you, considering what you were doing and how you were also facing cancer.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't call Ron. I mean, I know he's in the hands of great people, great doctors, and I was happy to hear that his cancer was in remission. But I mean, if you just look at the list of guys that you played with that either have had cancer, died from cancer, or they're in remission, it's really mind-boggling. And it's a statistic that you fly by, because you don't think about it. You know, you think football players are the tough guys and they don't go through certain things. But we are just we're students and we're men playing a game that a lot of people play, and we are very fortunate to get elevated to a point where they could call it professional football. So it's not a mystery. We still hurt, we still bleed, we still feel. So it's a very interesting thing once you become a football player.
If you don't mind, sir, how are you feeling now, a couple days later, and having this treatment behind you?
Well, I don't think cancer will ever be behind you, because once you've had the radiation in your body, it in order to eliminate the cancer, I think it eliminate other things, and so you live a life of adjustment. And that's where I feel like I am now. Today, I have not a perfect day, but I have a good day. And it's something every day to remind you that you've had the disease or you have the disease. So it will always be work. But what it does, it strengthens you in spirit, mind, and body to see so many people that are going through the same thing that you're going through, or you're going through the same thing that so many people are going through, that does not have the notoriety of that. You don't have a base to share it with people, and I feel that God has given me a base.
Well, sir, we're so glad that you chose to share that with us. And again, great news to hear that you and your family have at least put this behind you for now and that your cancer is in remission. Ken Houston is a Hall of Fame safety, a couple times All-Pro, 12 Pro Bowls. It's after hours here on CBS Sports Radio. We always enjoy hearing about the Gridiron greats and the work that they're doing, but I can imagine the experience that you've just gone through, as you mentioned, being in the hospital and the medical care, how much that means to you to have that, and yet you know that there are other former NFL players, former old-timers that don't have that same access to health care.
It shouldn't be that way. And you know, with Mike Dick and Gridiron greats, I think that's why he developed that. Not only, they need a voice. They need somebody that still cares. They need a connection, because, like the game is for the young. I understand that, and I appreciate that, because it was for me one day when I was playing, and there were other guys that had misfortune that played the game before I did. So what it does, it gives you a different idea, a different concept of, you put football in its place. And I tell people all the time, the only reason that I played football, one of the reasons, is that at my age it gives me an opportunity to still reach people And football is a vehicle in which you can carry your message. And with Mike doing what he's doing, and he's not very visual now. He's still vocal, but he's tough as iron. Most of the guys who played that amount of years are, but they all have a story to tell. And so it's good to appreciate. Football is not a mystery to the players that played it. It's something that anybody can play because I was anybody. I was out of position, and I ended up being a Hall of Fame and whatever. And I was an offensive center, middle linebacker, played safety in pro ball, and never played the position. So it was something that was good for me. But Mike does an excellent job. He's a voice for the players, and he's also a place where they can go.
Gridiron Greats Assistance Fund, and it's Mike Ditka, his charity, to help former football players who don't have the same access to health care or the same insurance and even a pension the way that some of today's players do. And Pork Rind Appreciation Day is such a big part of this, and Southern Recipe Small Batch Pork Rinds, they do this now 14 years, and I know I enjoy snacking on the pork rinds. As someone who came from East Texas, I can imagine pork rinds were a snack for you in your home too, Kenny.
Hey, I thought everybody had them. I mean, that was a staple. I remember in Ireland, this was a long time ago, I used to go to my grandfather's, and they'd actually, address the pork and fry them in the skillet, and they made live soap out of one, crackers out of the other one. And we ate them just like they were just a part of the meal, and it was really surprising to me. I got away from it, and I was having I was at Joe Green's party. They had the Southern Recipe Small Batch, and they had these pork rinds, and I ate the pork rind, and I'm not. You have to try them because it was the best pork rind I'd ever eaten. It didn't take the teeth out, it was soft, and it was good. And I started eating them, and so I can say without a doubt, it's the best pork rind I've ever eaten.
We're spending a few minutes with Hall of Fame safety Ken Houston here on After Hours CBS Sports Radio. I like that you mentioned Hall of Fame or whatever. Like it just happens. Hall of Fame or whatever with your gold jacket. So you were inducted into the Hall of Fame, as you mentioned, because of a position change, which I didn't actually know. So how difficult or how challenging was that transition? You were drafted in the 9th round, not maybe expected to even stick in the NFL. Most players in the NFL don't last 4 years, and yet you become a Hall of Famer at a different position, Kenny. How did that work?
It was a blessing for me because there's no way you can put this thing together. I was an offensive center, middle linebacker, and wasn't starting offensive center, and really I started at an outside linebacker, and I was drafted as safety. And I'm telling you the truth, after 14 years, I was still learning how to play the position. I played my entire career, never became a football player. It was a job. I'd go to work thinking I'm going to lose my job the next year or whatever. And so I managed to save my money, and my wife was, she was the head of it. She was an optical engineer at NASA. And I was planning to quit to go and follow her job because I'd gotten a degree at Prairie View. And so it was just something that I still, when I look at the things that were accomplished, I still can't imagine that being me. And when I was looking at, they put the 100-year team together last year, and I had cancer at that time, and I talked to the doctor. I was in the hospital, and I had been in there about, I guess, 2.5 months. And I told the doctor I made this team. And she said, you did. And my wife said, is there any way he can go? Just jokingly asked her. And she said, yeah, I'll make that happen. And she gave me permission to go to, and that was the first time I'd been out of the hospital. And I remember I had a walking cane, and I walked, and when I got to the stadium that night, I saw the other guys, the other 100-year guys. And I actually walked on the field without a cane. I to this day, I don't know how I did that. But, it's just certain things that if a thing is meant for you, then it happens. And I think that it wasn't about me. It was about my gift or the way my career ended, where other people could look at me and say, if he did that, I can do that. And that's the way I see it because I don't even see myself as a football player.
What do you see yourself as?
That's a good question. I was a teacher. I was a counselor. I worked in an alternative school, and I worked there for like 20 years. And so my deal is, how can I assist the kids? What can I do? And there's so many people don't have that avenue, but they are okay. They just need to understand they're okay, and everybody can't be the same thing. And so if with that approach, I think that as a few kids still come around. When I did coach high school football for a while, and I coached University of Houston, and I realized then that that's not what I wanted to do. And so I went into where I had my degree in counseling, and to this day, that's what I do. I mean, I can see everything wasn't for everybody, so we all shouldn't try to be the same thing. You've been given a gift, find out what your gift is, and follow your dream.
How important was it to you to have a college degree to fall back on so it wasn't just about football for you, Kenny?
It's really important. I have my degree was in guidance and counseling and physically and elementary education. And I didn't play ball thinking that I was going to be a professional football player. I played ball to get through school. I was the most shocked man in the house when they said that I was drafted. I mean, I remember they gave me a $6,000 bonus and a brand new Dodge Polara.
Whoa!
And I immediately tried to quit because that's all I wanted. I had a car and money, I mean, and so it's just I have never lived beyond my means. And so I felt like with that was a start for me. And, it's surprising. I say this a lot of times, but I think I still have that original $6,000.
No
I
way.
went to work. I made my salary, and I went to work in all seasons. My wife was working. So we never spent more than we had earned. And now I realize at this age, in this point in my life, the money that I made wasn't for me. It was to assist other people. And that's what we try to do.
I love to hear your stories, Ken. I could listen to you talk about not just football, but off the field as well. Ken Houston is a Hall of Fame safety, made the Pro Bowl 12 consecutive times, and we're pleased to talk to him again here on CBS Sports Radio, now knowing that he can add cancer survivor to the list of things that define him in his life. Something that I read about you and I think is so interesting is that when Washington traded for you, it was 5 other players going back to Houston, so you in exchange for 5 others. So they thought you were pretty valuable when you were traded.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm the most shocked man in the house, because I never looked at myself like that. And what was interesting when I got to D.C., I'm thinking, boy, they traded 5 guys for me. And so, they're going to be really excited about having me. But it didn't dawn on me that the players up there, they had lost 5 of their friends. And when I got there, I'm thinking, you're the starting strong safety, and I couldn't start. They had Roosevelt Taylor and Brig Owens playing the position, and I had to earn my way into the starting lineup. And Roosevelt Taylor broke his arm, and they moved Brig Owens to the free safety, putting me as strong in my position. And I think the second or third game, we played the Dallas Cowboys, and I stopped Walt Garrison on the 1-yard line. And that solidified my entire career in DC. So it was just. I mean, it's been a journey. It's been a beautiful journey. I couldn't have made that journey anywhere else other than where I was and what I did.
Can I tell you something funny, Ken? Even as you're telling that story, I have a website open on my laptop in front of me, and it is literally a picture of you making the tackle of Walt Garrison at the goal line on Monday Night Football. I'm looking at a photo of it right now, even as you tell the story.
I was asking Brig for help. Brig on. I remember calling help because I didn't think I could hold it. And when I looked at the picture, his feet were not on the ground. I was just taller than he was. wasn't a great tackle. It was a holdback.
What was your favorite thing about playing safety once you got acclimated to a new position?
It allowed you to be a football player. You know, you could go out wide and cover. You could play inside like a linebacker. You were a part of George Allen's calling the signals. You learned the entire game, and you didn't only have to learn for yourself. You had to learn where the linemen were going to be, where the linebacker. You had a lot of interaction, okay? And so by being a lineman in college, it assisted me in going up when I had to come up and hit a guard or whatever. So I think playing the safety makes you a complete player.
It's been kind of fun lately, especially in these playoffs, that a lot of the star power and a lot of the big plays have come on defense. And so as much as we celebrate quarterbacks as football fans, man, the defenses of these teams have been really impressive to this point.
The highest paid players in a year or so, unless they change the way the offense works, will be defensive players because you got to rush the passer. And I don't know if you noticed toward the end of the year, you started seeing more passes intercepted by the defensive backs because they're bunching the receivers, put three tight ends on the line of scrimmage. So what those guys started doing, they started jump routes. And they're bringing people, they're giving the quarterback one look. And that ball has to come out of his hands. So at first, they didn't know how to play it, you know, and now they've caught on to it. And so the game will have to change again because the game is so big and fast and strong until you got to get rid of the football or you're going to get hurt. You know, that's the nature of the beast. I'm surprised that with Cincinnati, I think that quarterback got sacked 9 times.
Yeah, by Tennessee.
And that's a lot of hits. You know, that's like all it takes one. And so, you know, it's good to see. I'm glad to see they made some changes in the game that were important for the health of players. And I think you need that because the guys that get injured, especially the head and neck injuries, once they're gone, they might be gone for a long, long time. And once that game is over with, you're in the hospital, and the game, I tell people this all the time, if you got a minute. We playing the New York Giants, and I had played in 190-some games, never missed a game. And I broke my arm, and I didn't know it was broken. And the trainer came out, and he looked at it, and I said, well, I'll be okay. He said, no, I don't think you'll be okay. So anyway, they take me off to the sideline, and they take me into the locker room just before halftime. And on the way in the locker room, the fans were real quiet. But all of a sudden, they just started cheering. And they had started the game. And the first time in like 190 games, they started the game without me. And I said to myself, the game has missed players, but it has never missed a play. And that's how you have to see it. You know, they'll I don't care what happened to you. They'll blow the whistle. They'll stop the clock. And they'll move you off and the game will go on. So you have to understand where you are. You can be a part of the game, but that's exactly what you are. You're just a part of it. The game has a nature all of its own. And I guess, I don't know, fortunate or unfortunate, but we've been allowed to play.
Gone, but not forgotten. And I love the fact that the NFL is putting together these teams and that there is the Hall of Fame where you can connect. But also, as we talk about the Gridiron greats, want to make sure that some of the old timers are taken care of where maybe they feel like the game and the world has kind of passed them by. So Kenny Houston is a Hall of Famer after his 14 years at safety, which was not his position when he got into the NFL, but 12 consecutive Pro Bowls and a couple times All-Pro and cancer survivor. Again, sir, it's so good to talk to you, and I'm so glad to hear this news for you and your wife and your family. So thank you for a couple of minutes.
Hey, thank you, and thank you for this base to get that story out. We really appreciate that.